Hey there, welcome to episode 121 of the Social Business Engine podcast, the podcast where thought leaders from brands, technology companies, and also independent thought leaders contribute to your social business strategy to help you get better business results and to positively impact your career. I'm Bernie Borges, your host of the Social Business Engine podcast. Hey, on this episode, you're going to meet Tony Zeiss, Director of Sales and Marketing at Proforma. Tony will discuss how Proforma has changed their sales model through content marketing and social selling practices. Now, this episode is sponsored by Outward Media, Inc., a leader in the direct marketing industry. Later in the show, I'll tell you about a valuable offer from Outward Media. And now, here's my interview with Tony Zeiss, Director of Sales and Marketing at Proforma. Tony, welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast.
Hey, Bernie. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, Tony, you and I met in April at the GaggleAmp conference, which GaggleAmp aptly calls Amplify. Yep. And when we met, I was not previously familiar with Proforma. So what I thought we would do, Tony, is why don't we begin our conversation with an introduction from my listeners to Proforma and then your role at the company.
Sure, be happy to do that. So Proforma is a company. We offer promotional products, printing services, and other marketing resources. We're a B2B company, and we're a franchise organization. So we actually have offices throughout all North America and into Europe. We have about 750 offices globally. I work out of the support center, the Worldwide Support Center is what we call it. And it's based here in Cleveland, Ohio. And it's essentially what amounts to the corporate office. We like to call it Support Center because our goal here is to simply support our franchise owners. So our franchise owners are distributors of promotional products, print, and other marketing-related products and services. My role here is Director of Sales and Marketing. I lead all of our digital marketing efforts on a Proforma-wide basis. That is my background. I've been in the digital marketing space for probably about 12 years now. I do a lot of hands-on coaching directly with our owners as well. And I also lead sales efforts for e-commerce. So that's a big piece of what we do is kind of scaling our sales via e-commerce. So I have my hands on a few different things here, but social is a big piece of what I focus on. I coach and help our owners with their prospecting efforts using social media.
Now, when you say your owners, Tony, you're referring to the franchise owners?
Correct.
Okay. And just so I'm clear, these franchise owners are franchisees that sell promotional products, and those promotional products are traditionally, I think of things like T-shirts and coffee mugs and, sort of knickknacks that a brand will put their logo on. Is that what you're referring to in the space of promotional products?
Yep, so branded merchandise, advertising specialties, and then think of print pieces. So anything you could put a logo on, that's what Proforma does.
Yeah, okay, great. It's a big industry. It's been around for a while.
Absolutely. It's, I want to say, bigger than automotive and beverage. It's one of the top 10 largest industries in the world.
Yeah. Wow.
As crazy as that is, yeah.
So, Tony, back to how we met at the GaggleAmp conference, the Amplify conference. You spoke there. In fact, you led a panel session on social selling, but specifically, in fact, the previous year we were talking before we started recording about how you actually spoke on how Proforma does prospecting for new business using a social strategy. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to get into that strategy, but I'd like to start with like the genesis of that strategy. How was the strategy born?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been with Proforma for 5 years now, and as I said, my background is in digital marketing. So I had a small digital marketing agency prior to being on board here at Proforma. We did SEO and social media marketing and all that. So when I came on board, I thought that this would be a really good opportunity to kind of push where our franchise owners were at and how they could leverage social kind of in the B2B space to generate more business. It started slowly because when I first started, so back in 2011, the concept of social, I think our network was was better off and more ahead of the game, more forward thinking than most of the world. But in a lot of ways, people were still looking at it, scratching their heads, saying, "This might be a fad."
Yeah, right.
Or
I remember those days.
This is just for kids, right? And it's this was 5 years ago, and it's kind of crazy to think, right?
I know.
And really, what people didn't understand that were asking that they were thinking that it's technology based, and it's really not technology based. It's simply a communication platform, and it's one that has become, the adoption just has grown and grown and grown, and you can't fight the way people like to communicate. You have to go with it, or you suffer the consequences. So I began, we do a number of events so beginning of the year, I hit about 7 cities to go out and visit the different franchise owners in different parts of the country and into Canada. And then in the summertime, we do a large national convention. And so I would always do these sessions talking about social and implementing social and all that. We didn't have any formal programs at the time, but everyone was really interested. My sessions would always fill up, and there'd always be the kind of jokes, "Oh, my session's going up against Tony's, so I guess no one will be there." Well, it's not because I'm this riveting speaker. It's because of the content that I got to talk about. People were interested in it. So what we realized was that everyone got that they needed to be there. They needed to be in the social space. They needed to be on LinkedIn. They needed to be on Facebook. They needed to be on Twitter, etc., or one or some or all. They got that. What they did once they're there, that's where it got confusing. And so I realized that there weren't a whole lot. It exists out there. There are many people that, companies that offer social selling, training, and all that. But overall, kind of when you look at the business world, it's not something where there has been mass adoption of it. It's still relatively new. And so in our industry, in the world of Proforma, it was something that was brand new concept. And so people said, "All right, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to really go and do social this year." And what they were really telling me is they're going to set up their LinkedIn profile.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not where it stops and starts. That's like saying, "I have pants on. I'm now ready for the networking event. I'm going to make this happen." Well, just because you have pants on doesn't mean that you're going to go and grow your business through networking events, right? I mean, you have to have them on, or whatever. But anyway, so, but I realized there are a number of things at play. So number one is people who run a franchise are typically running lean and mean. They are hustling, right? There's all these aspects of their business they have to pay attention to. So when you ask them to spend a whole lot of time on social, they don't have that whole lot of time. And like most people in our very busy world that we live in, time was a big challenge, and content was the other big challenge. And then the third challenge that really they weren't aware of was strategy. So they realized that time was something that was pressing and was challenging. They realized they didn't know necessarily what to say when they were on social, even if they carved out a few minutes. But then the big thing is they didn't know what their strategy was. Were they on there for brand awareness? Were they on there to gain familiarity? Were they on there to generate leads? They didn't really know. And so that's what we focused on. And so really the program now is a strict prospecting program. It's so people can, it's for our franchise owners, their sales reps, to understand how they can pinpoint decision makers in the B2B space at companies that would be great accounts, find out who those decision makers are, what they're responsible for, maybe some common connections, and how to get on that person's radar before you ever actually reach out to them. And so doing that through social, and then having some light social engagement, and then shifting the conversation elsewhere. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's an email, maybe it's in person, but that's really where the power really kind of really grows and becomes much more significant.
Okay, so Tony, you and I both know that content plays a big role in social selling. So do you want to speak to how you teach and explain and get these franchise owners who, as you said, are busy, they have limited time, and you also said they have limited content. How does that happen for them? How do they get the content? What do they do with it, et cetera?
Yep. Yeah, so that's a great point. So content, I feel, is something that is a necessity. but it's not going to generate that business for you. So you have to be putting out content. You have to be active on social, but you got to do more. But it's the starting block that you have to, you have to begin at that spot. So we use, as you mentioned, we met at Amplify. So we use Gaggle Amp. That's the platform we use to power our social media content program. So that program here is something that we've built in-house. Our marketing team here we have about 15 people or so on the marketing team, and most of the people on the team contribute. Other people here at our support center contribute to our Proforma blog. That's one of the main drivers of our program. So we blog 3 times a week at proformablog.com. We talk about all the things that would be interesting to our target audience. So in a lot of cases, our target customer is someone who's maybe a marketing director, marketing manager, marketing coordinator. Maybe they're an HR professional, sometimes in sales, but really marketing is kind of the focus. And also there are people in positions in leadership. So we want to be a resource to them, not only in the products we sell, but as well when we're putting out content online, we want it to be things that will be valuable, interesting.
And you're referring to the end user, right? Not your
correct.
Franchisee, but the end user, a marketing director who might need branded materials.
Correct. So
Okay.
we're going to talk about a number of different, we're going to talk all over the place. We're going to talk about marketing concepts, from direct response marketing to brand marketing to, design, etc. We'll talk about productivity, leadership, efficiency, time management, all that kind of stuff that would be interesting to that type of professional. We then push all that out through our blog. The blog then syndicates to our Gaggle Amp platform, where our franchise owners and sales reps have access to that content, and then they can easily share it from there. So that's kind of how we power that. We do encourage our users to also make edits, changes, kind of, create their own. We offer the ability for anyone in our network also to blog on our platform as well, and then their content gets syndicated out.
Meaning the franchisees?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And so then they get to put their concepts and ideas out there. But I think when it comes to content, I think, there's no lack of content out in the world. I think, a number of years ago, Eric Schmidt from Google, he did the research and said that the amount of content that's created in, I want to say 24 hours is what had been created from the beginning of time until 2010 or something like that.
Yeah.
Just going off the top of my head, it was ridiculous, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's no shortage of content, but when you can be a curator of content, so you're the one that's picking and choosing the best of the best out there, and then you're sharing really good stuff that's relevant to your audience, that becomes useful and valuable in and of itself.
Right.
And people start to look to you as an authority of some sort. Even if you're just picking and choosing good content, they're saying, I'm going to follow Tony because the stuff that he shares is useful to me. Now,
Right.
I may not pen any of that stuff, but the fact that I'm taking the time to pick and choose good content, well, that's value in today's world of information overload.
Yep.
That's something that's very useful.
And it's a time saver too. So Tony, where I want to go next is I want to talk about how the franchise owners are actually using this content, what you learn from how they use that. But before we go there, I just want to pause briefly for a message from our sponsor. Outward Media Inc. is a leader in the direct marketing industry, providing businesses access to the largest SMB email database for the acquisition of new customers. OMI has a commitment to data accuracy that I find very impressive because it helps you identify your best prospects so that you can generate more qualified leads. In fact, OMI offers a 95% accuracy guarantee on all email data for 30 days. I urge you to download OMI's ebook, The Executive's 15-Minute Guide to Building a Successful Email Marketing Database, to discover the essentials for improving email deliverability. Now, when I read this ebook, I discovered at least 3 things that we needed to address. It's really a must-read for all digital marketers. You can get your copy now at outwardmedia.com/SBE, and you can also find the link to this ebook at our website, at socialbusinessengine.com. So, Tony, what have you learned about the kind of content that really resonates with your franchisees, and also how it kind of contributes to their sales funnel? Is certain types of content, have you discovered, more impactful on their sales funnel than others?
To be quite honest, I think it varies on the franchise owners. All have very unique and different client bases. Their audiences are different based on geography, based on industry vertical. The industry that we're in is so broad, and basically every business purchases what it is we sell, that it's really going to vary. What we have found, though, is it's important to put out regular content for purposes of simply for top of mind awareness.
Okay.
For instance, on LinkedIn, on many of the other networks, there's so much content that's being pushed out, it's just overwhelming. So Twitter's a fire hose. There's no way, if you follow 50, 500, 5,000 different users, there's no way to consume all of that content because Twitter shows you everything. Facebook's only going to show you the stuff that you're interacting with, the people that you're interacting with, and they're going to kind of tell you what you're interested in. But LinkedIn, people aren't sharing as much. And so when you share, and again, we're in the B2B space, when you share content on LinkedIn with regularity, people tend to see you, and that bodes well for you because you stand out. People start to see your face, they see your name. They at some point click on your profile and find out a little bit about what you're doing. So we work with our franchise owners on how to optimize their profiles so that I could talk to you, Bernie, and what your needs are, rather than me talking all about what Tony does and all about me. I want to talk about the person that I serve, how I do it, and what makes me different from everybody else out there. So we talk about optimizing, profile optimization, and that's on other networks as well, not just LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn's an important one. We focus on listening, the importance of taking the technology that's available, kind of muting and silencing all the noise out there through using list functionality on Twitter, on Facebook, and then in LinkedIn, that's using Sales Navigator. So we have the ability to kind of mute all the nonsense that's going on out there, because that's the world we live in, is information overload. Mm-hmm. And really focus in on the prospects, right? So I might have a list maybe of just 20 people. I might have a LinkedIn network of 3,500 plus users, but I probably have 20 people in there that I really want to focus in on, because those are the people that represent accounts that would be worthwhile for me. It would probably change my business if I landed 2 or 3 of those and made either 2016, a landmark year, or maybe a break-even year. So we really try to focus, do a lot of listening. And then how do we actually start to engage with those people after we identify the right decision makers? And we might find them on LinkedIn through research, but then we might realize there's a better network to actually interact with them. We might find out that, you and I have a Facebook friend or something, and that would be a better way to get introduced to Bernie, will be through our mutual Facebook friend, because we're close with them both.
So in other words, Tony, what I hear you saying is that you then are coaching them on how to take this online engagement offline into a conversation where you can build, as you like to say, and I think we've been saying this for some time now, is the know, like, and trust factor, right? Taking them offline to build that.
That's correct. And I think that's where social becomes most powerful, is not when everyone's just tweeting back and forth or commenting or liking or sharing. It's when you and I interact a little bit on social, and then I shoot you maybe a LinkedIn connection request or a message and say, "Hey, Bernie, I noticed, you're interested."
But I live in Tampa, and you have an office in Tampa.
Yeah, you live that's right. That's where
our next time you come here, we're going to grab dinner.
That's right, exactly. And I'll say, "Hey, I'm going to be in Tampa. What do you recommend? Where should I?" Right? So it's just those, connecting and creating relationships. And a big part that people are always hesitant and reluctant is those things such as that. Bernie's in Tampa, right? Well, our other office is in Tampa. And there's all these things that we can connect on. I could find out, are you a Lightning fan, right? And are you a Rays fan, right? So, okay, well, last year we would have been at odds because I'm a Blackhawks fan, right?
That's right.
Not this year.
Anyway,
no, not this year. But anyway, I think that that piece of understanding, you can understand so much about people just by looking at someone's social profile. Do a Google search, look at people's, different profiles and understand about them. Because if you could talk to me about the things that really matter to me, I'm going to open up. And it's going to be a lot easier conversation, and that's going to lead to a lot longer conversation and more. And now you have to bring your A game when it comes to sales, but when you go in strictly just in a sterile, hi, I'm here to sell you something, that it doesn't work in today's world. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
And so many people that are on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is such a sterile environment that it drives me crazy. I hear all the time how people say, you have to have a professional headshot. Now, I have a professional headshot right now on LinkedIn, but I so badly want to put something that's not professional on there because it would just make me stand out. And there's nothing wrong with standing out.
That's right.
Because what everyone's doing on LinkedIn is the same. They're connecting, they're connecting, they're connecting. Then they're either not doing anything or they're hammering their contacts with the sales pitch.
Yeah, well, I always like to say, Tony, be you. Be the you that you are, And so I'm with you on that. I mean, I get the whole fact that LinkedIn is professional networking, and the protocol is for generally speaking a professional headshot. Not that it has to be in a studio, but to your point, it's not in a tank top at the beach. I mean,
correct.
We know that, but it can still be creative, and so I like that point. I want to ask you something about your franchisees. I've got a thought running through my head here, and I'm going to use a little metaphor here, and tell me if this metaphor fits for you, and if it doesn't, tell me. And that is, I would think that in some respects, they kind of become like your children because you're nurturing them. And so what I'm wondering is, if that metaphor works for you at some level, do you have any stories that you can share? I've got a couple of stories from when my kids were young that I'm proud of, which I'm not going to get into here and now, but maybe you've got a story or two to share about some of your franchisees and some of their success stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have kind of three that really come to mind because they're people that I worked with pretty closely, and I haven't asked them if I could disclose this information, so I'll give first names and kind of tell
Sure.
where they're based. But so there's many that we've worked with, and again we've had some significant success. Our social sales training, which we call the Social Media Sales Challenge, actually it's been in place for about 2 years, and it's been responsible for over $5 million in brand new business. That doesn't count upsells, cross-sells, or reorders. So brand new business with brand new prospects. So we'd like to think that it's been a very successful program, and there's probably a lot more where that's at. But the first time I launched it was a 30-day challenge, and I called it the challenge because I felt it was more of a challenge to myself to get some results and then showcase that to the other. I'm going to be on the road for 7 weeks, and I wanted to share these results to kind of keep this training going. And so in that first 30 days, I worked with an owner who's up in just outside of Boston, and he was actually at Amplify last year. His name is Brian. And Brian, I worked with him, and he went through the training. And in that first 30 days of the training, he kind of went through the steps that we teach in the training, and he reconnected with some people that he used to work with. He ended up with using that approach, simply just using the approach on social, kind of warming up some dormant contacts. He ended up gaining, I want to say, $141,000 in business in that first 30-day period. So he was our big success story.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was pretty awesome. And it was just a matter of just re-engaging people, catching up. Hey, this is what I'm doing these days. I have this business that I'm running.
Yep. It's just about relationships.
Exactly. And then I have another one of our franchise owners who is based in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he recently shared this at the beginning of the year. He's using the process, and he's heavy on Facebook. A lot of times people think, this prospecting business stuff has to be LinkedIn, and I think Facebook is the greatest opportunity. Just going and sending friend requests to people you do business with that you just kind of like, right? Like everybody does business with people that you just kind of, you meet and you kind of click, right? And you feel good and you have some laughs together. And even if you didn't do business with them, if you go grab a cup of coffee or grab lunch, that's a person that I think you should add as a friend. Because what happens is people start to view you as more than just someone they do business with. Right. They start to see more about Bernie and all about his life. And then I like some of your pictures, and then you feel good about me, and then you see, right? And so the next time that we meet up, when I'm when we have dinner in Tampa the next time I'm in town, right, we'll have a lot more to talk about, and that's very powerful, right? Yep. So the power of, like you said, relationships. So this owner in Tulsa has used that extensively. He's actually grown his largest account, which is $250,000 annually. He picked up that account and has retained it now strictly through this social prospecting process. And he's one of our, when our owners hit the $1 million mark, we consider them part of our $1 million club, and he's one of those prestigious owners. So that's a really exciting one to hear, that someone has gone through the steps.
So did I understand he grew it from 250,000 to $1 million?
No, this is one account that's worth $250,000 annually to him.
Okay.
And he grew this simply from just the steps of social prospecting and a heavy emphasis on just his relationships on Facebook. That's just one account, and he has many others that he's created through this process. But the one gem is that $250,000 account that he has.
Wow.
And then the last one I would point out is we have a sales rep. So he's a sales rep that works for one of the franchises that's based in New Hampshire, and his name is Rob. And Rob I typically run the training on a quarterly basis. We usually go about 6 weeks or so. And Rob enrolls almost every quarter, and he's really committed to it. And it's awesome because he set his numbers year over year from 2014 to 2015, he saw an 18% increase in sales directly attributed to his efforts using social media for prospecting.
Wow.
And so I thought that was really cool, because a lot of times people think, well, yeah, social, it's important, we know everyone's there, but you can't track it. There's, how do you figure out the ROI? Well, if you know that it's someone that you connected with, that you found because you did a very specific search, is someone that you found through your social prospecting efforts. That's how you initially reached out to them. That's how you set that first appointment. That turned into an order and dollars, et cetera, and it's continuing to grow. It's actually easy to track if you do it in that fashion. So
those are
Rob
three great stories.
So really exciting stuff. So when I hear that, it's like, the people who are putting these things into play are making things happen, and I encourage more people to go out and give it a shot.
Terrific. Well, Tony, we are at a point in the podcast where I want to now do a recap of the highlights of what we discussed, and then I'm going to ask you to either fill in any holes or clarify or even correct anything that I may have misspoke on. So we began our conversation with just your introduction to Proforma, and you described that you're a B2B organization serving franchisees in the promotional services industry with 750 offices, and that you work out of the support center, that you've been, you yourself have been in digital for about 12 years, and that your role there is social coaching, social training, and you also do the sales effort for the e-commerce part of the business. And that your background on social selling is quite extensive. When you joined the company back in 2011, after having run a digital marketing agency, you knew that social was something that you wanted to introduce to Proforma. But as we both know, social was still fairly young in 2011. You recognized it, and I love this, as a communication platform. I use that vernacular all the time, that it is just a modern way of communicating. And you developed this training program first, if I understood correctly, by going out to Proforma events and putting on sessions, which were wildly popular. I kind of have this visualization, Tony, of people standing outside in the hallway trying to get in the room, but the fire code would prevent them from getting in or something like that. And you said that people understood that they needed to be on social, but they didn't know how to do it. So you recognized that franchise owners had 3 challenges that you needed to address when it comes to helping them make the transition to embrace using social. They had limited time, limited content, and a lack of strategy. So you put together a prospecting program that really is about how to pinpoint decision makers, how to find the common connections, how to get on their radar, and then how to engage so that they can take it offline into real human conversations where the real action happens, where the real business happens. We talked about the content strategy and how you've got a blog and you're producing 3 blog posts a week, and then you're, of course, using GaggleAmp as a platform, kind of an employee advocacy program, or platform rather, where you make the content available to your franchisees. You've got I think you said a 15-person team, and in the end, the content that you're producing is really resourceful, useful to the end user, the marketing persona. We talked about how the franchise owners, they've got a diversified geographic locations. So it's not necessarily a cookie cutter thing for all franchisees. You're supplying the content that any one of them can use. And you're really emphasizing a focus on listening so that they can do things like list building on Twitter and using Sales Navigator for listening so they can really understand who the people are that they need to engage with. And then, as I said earlier, really look for the opportunity through engagement to go offline to build that know, like, and trust factor. And then we wrapped it up with 3 success stories. You mentioned that through your social media sales channel program, and I don't know if I got that right, you've produced $5 million in results, which is unbelievable. I think that really takes the cake, Tony, on any result that I've seen in the course of doing what's this, episode 121. Holy cow, that is just amazing. And you talked about your 30-day challenge and how you went out and identified opportunities, franchisees, and you had 3 success stories. Brian was one of them, and in the first 30 days, he connected with some old colleagues, former colleagues, and he generated $141,000 in business. Another franchisee whom you didn't name in Tulsa, who uses Facebook to friend people that he does business with, and from that, he grew an account to its current state of $250,000. And then you mentioned Rob in New Hampshire, how he re-enrolls in your course every quarter. I love that. And how just 2014 to 2015, he increased his social media, his business 18% from social media prospecting. So I'm a little winded, but tell me if there's anything you'd like to either plug a hole or clarify or correct anything I said.
Well, Bernie, I told you I'm a one-take kind of guy, and I can tell that you are too, because you pretty much nailed it. But I will tell you, the gentleman in Tulsa, his name is Matt.
Matt in Tulsa. All right. Outstanding. Well, Tony, where would you like to send people online to learn more about you and about Proforma and all these awesome things that you're doing?
Yeah, I would inquire if anyone is interested in finding out about Proforma. You can go to proforma.com. If you're interested in the franchise opportunity, you're looking for a business and you think that serving businesses in a B2B capacity is something you might be interested in, only proforma.com is where you'll want to go. And if you want to find out more about me, you can find me on basically any social network at Tony Zeiss. So it's TonyZayas, or you can visit me at tonyzayas.com.
Fantastic. And Tony, my listeners know that all that will be linked up in the show notes. So, Tony, thank you so much once again for joining me here today to share this amazing $5 million story. Just fantastic. Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you for having me, Bernie. My pleasure.
All right. Well, I hope that you enjoyed my conversation today with Tony Zeiss, Director of Sales and Marketing at Proforma. I want to remind you that this episode is sponsored by Outward Media, Inc., a leader in the direct marketing industry. Download OMI's ebook, The Executive's 15-Minute Guide to Building a Successful Email Marketing Database, to discover the essentials for improving email deliverability. Get your copy now at outwardmedia.com/SBE. And you can also find that link on the show notes page for this episode at our website, socialbusinessengine.com. And hey, don't go yet. Before I close out, I want to remind you that you can become a member of our Social Business Engine community. Membership is totally free, and it provides premium content that we only make available to our members. Our community is made up of thousands of business professionals whose common interest is using social media strategy, social technology, and social culture to create better business results and improve their career. It's really easy to become a member. Just hit our website at socialbusinessengine.com. You can't miss it. Well, hey, that's going to do it for episode 121. I want to thank my guest once again, Tony Zeiss, Director of Sales and Marketing at Proforma. This is Bernie Borges wishing you continued success on your social business journey.